What's up, YouTube? Dark God back again with day 20 of the October Horror Movie Challenge. Big day today. Only got two films in, but the second film I watched of the day was Halloween 2018. I've been looking forward to this since I've seen, the first still image with Jamie Lee Curtis on the steps of the Halloween house. So this was huge for me. I've been waiting for this. I'm a couple days after everybody else. Everybody else got to catch it about 2 days ago. I've been saying off social media, I don't want any spoilers, no nothing. So, getting into it, first film, I'll get into it before I get into Halloween, because Halloween's going to be the brunt of this post. The first film I watched was a DVDtalk.com pick of the day, and that was Evil Toons. Now, I've seen this before. Fred Olin Ray production from the late 80s, early 90s, I think early 90s, where they put together like a cartoon demon with four very scantily clad women throughout the film. Fun movie. It doesn't take itself serious at all, but it does enough of the seriousness to push like the storyline further, and it actually works. I mean, it's like yesterday's film, The Toxic Avenger. It's just a fun film. It's not to be taken serious at all. Like, I mean, there's a cartoon killing people at points. You have some good B-level stars in David Carradine and Bruce Miller. It's just exactly like how Toxic Avenger was a perfect up all night movie yesterday. This movie is also perfect up all night. Has some of the best nudity of any early 90s horror film. It just does very good at that side of it. It blends the comedy, blends the horror. I mean, you have a cartoon demon from a rip-off Evil Dead book. I mean, they even go into the whole Cantarian demon thing, and it's covered in blood and scenes, and it's killing people in scenes, jumping on the girls, and it's they do a lot of the spoofs where like the cartoon interacts with like the live action, so they have to do like the prop, like the top's falling off because the monster, the demon's swiping ends, everything. It's a fun film. I mean, you really, Fred Olin Ray, you cannot take serious. Like, he's just one of those guys like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and just a bunch of his stuff. I mean, there's even a callback joke to Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers in this film. So it's a fun film. 5.5 out of 10. But I mean, just for the rewatch and the funness, it is a lot higher. It's just not a very well made film. So, second film of the day, like I said, Halloween 2018. Been waiting for this moment. I mean, like, I'm not one that hates on Rob Zombie's Halloween. I think it was decent. I mean, I don't like that it was a remake. I wish he made it just a new addition to the franchise instead of a remake. But I do like it. Like, I think it was the last decent film Rob Zombie made. After that, I think it went downhill. Halloween 2 is god awful. Rob Zombie's version is god awful. Like, one of my most hated horror films of all time. So I wanted a film to come out and like rejuvenate the franchise. Like, people getting into horror, like now, like younger generation, like they'll know Halloween obviously because it's like one of those films that's, it's a top horror film in the genre. So they might know that, but the later ones they might have skipped over, and they might not even understand that like Michael Myers is like probably that top 3 horror icon. And I mean, Halloween itself, the first film, is to me one of the best horror films ever. And I've had this argument with people before where I argue from 78 to like 84, 85, John Carpenter was the best director working, because everything he touched, especially in the horror genre, was gold. I mean, Christine, The Thing, Halloween, other stuff that I'm just obviously overlooking right now, but everything he did was just absolutely perfect. And the fact that his name was attached to this, I hoped that would lead to this being a good film. And I mean, I still went into it with a lot of trepidation because, I mean, Halloween, the first Halloween film, and John Carpenter's my favorite director, the first Halloween film is my favorite horror film. So there's a lot of me thinking like, okay, please don't mess this up. Please, take care of this. And that's the thing with like Rob Zombie's Halloween. Like, I think he did it as a horror fan, and he just gets a lot of shit because, I mean, you are remaking a classic. You have to come on with like, your A game when you're remaking a classic, and you have to be perfect. And he was a little off. Like, I liked it. I think it was amazing and everything. But this one coming up, it just was something that, you know, first of all, they came up with the whole, you know, we're gonna wipe away everything from 2 to H2O. All that's gone. This is a direct sequel to 1. His body count isn't crazy. You know, Daniel Harris's character never existed. Josh Hartnett's character never existed. Busta Rhymes never existed, which probably is for the better. But you know what I'm getting at. Like, Halloween 2 never existed. Halloween 2 was like just a perfect like follow up to Halloween 1, whereas like it just continued the same night. A lot of the same characters were brought over and everything, and then they kind of went into that Sam Hain like more supernatural feel to it. And I guess that's what they were getting at, that they just wanted a straight up killer. They didn't want anything supernatural about him. They wanted him just to be a serial killer. I mean, they took away the connection of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers being brother and sister. So it was them. They're very like, it was a very big thing to decide. And I mean, it was very, you know, cut and dry, heated in the horror community, where majority of people hated that they were doing that. That a lot of people just wanted them to start it after 2. Okay, you know, or started after 5. You know, just to have that connection and everything there. Daniel Harris even reached out to try to get her role reprised, to have something in there. So there's a lot going into it, where, you know, you were very nervous that they were going to mess something up here. Then you add in Danny McBride, and I'm a huge Eastbound and Down fan, a huge Vice Principals fan. Like, everything Danny McBride does, I love on the comedy aspect. Throwing him into a horror franchise like Halloween is a little odd. And now I know, like, recently, like, a lot of comedic actors have been doing a crossover where they go and direct horror films, and everything's working out. You know, Jordan Peele did it, John Krasinski did it, and they made 2 of the better horror films of the past year and a half, 2 years. But Danny McBride, like, you don't know what his chops were as far as a horror producer, you know, helping with the rights or rewrites or anything. You don't know what he was going to do. You just know him as a comedic actor, and what he's done in comedy, you know, for writing and everything, he does very well. But you're unsure of him coming in, and he was good in Alien Covenant, and I think it was a break from his typecasting. So I think that gave you a little bit of a, you know, a warmer feeling of him being in charge and him helping out. But the big thing to me was getting Jamie Lee Curtis and getting John Carpenter, because you have 2 people that helped make that magic of the original, and bringing them in and letting John Carpenter help with the score, or do the score with his son. I believe it was his son, and it just, you're taking one of those elements that, you know, created Halloween and brought it in. And then you're taking Jamie Lee Curtis, who, you know, even what she says about like horror films and how she doesn't like that, you know, she was in horror films, you know, because she became a mainstream actress, and she didn't like where her career started. She always had enough respect for Halloween, it seemed, that Halloween was the exception. I guess because it was so well made originally that, you know, a lot of people, like, horror gets a bad rap a lot of times with actors and actresses where they start, you know. But there's a difference of George Clooney being in Return to Horror High and Jamie Lee Curtis being in Halloween. Like, those 2 films are on 2 different planes of existence. Like, Halloween is just a respected film, the other one isn't. So I think bringing both those people in also was help, and it also kind of helped bring the horror genre. Go, okay, Carpenter's in on it, Jamie Lee Curtis is in on it. I mean, Carpenter was the big one, because I mean, he's horror royalty. I mean, his picture is somewhere back there. I think it's behind the pumpkin, actually. He's horror royalty as far as I'm concerned. Like, to me, he's top 5 horror director of all time. I'd probably even argue top 3. But just bringing him into this product and having his mind on it, on set, is just such a big help. So, with all that being said, getting into the film, going to see it, you know, like I said, I was nervous going into it. I heard people say, oh, it was phenomenal, you know, seeing people's reviews. I heard other people say, oh, it's just a cash grab. So, I mean, I was split going into it, but I don't want to read any spoilers. I don't want any storyline revealed to me. I knew basically what it was. The premise was these people want to interview Michael Myers, and the Jamie Lee Curtis character has become like this survival in a woman who like she knows this night's gonna come eventually, and she wants to be prepared for it, and all the traps she sets and all the guns are, you know, just her training and everything. So, all right. So going into it, this is gonna be a little long-winded, I think, because it's such like a hot topic, I think, right now. I'll just get this off the bat. I love the film. I loved the movie. To me, it knocked Halloween 3 off of the number 2 spot in my Halloween franchise order. Obviously, Halloween, the original, is number 1. And I always had Halloween 3 as number 2, followed by Halloween 2. This jumped in between 3 and 1 because I just think this was such a... It was such a, like almost like a love story of the first one, where it continued on, similar to Halloween 2 did, but just instead of the same night, it did it 40 years later. And I mean, you get Michael killing people in all the brutal ways that he kills people. And a lot of people can say, oh, they were just rip off of kills from other Halloween films. And it's probably true. You know, there's some of the kills in there are obviously taken straight from other movies. I mean, you know, it just, everything is very similar. And I just think that it worked. It worked on so many levels. Like, the writing is awesome, the directing is awesome, the acting is awesome. I had a friend say that he thinks Jamie Lee Curtis should be up for an Oscar, and I agree. I mean, like, the way she is in this film is just such against what she is, and she did such an amazing job at it that she really should be considered. And then the other person I think that should be considered for an Oscar is John Carpenter for the score, because, you know, 35 to 40 years ago, the Academy, you know, didn't give him any credit for anything. And like I said, in my opinion, he was best director going. Give him that pity nomination now, even though his score is phenomenal in this film. Give him that nomination because he deserves the nomination from the original Halloween. He deserved it for directing and the Halloween and the Thing, and the score of the Thing, the score of Christine. But because the Academy doesn't like horror films, you don't get him. So I think either one of them should have a chance of being nominated. I'm not holding my breath because I'm pretty sure neither of them will be nominated. The rest of the cast is just filled out perfectly. Like, everybody plays a good role. My only complaint about the film is the doctor character, and there's gonna be spoilers here. So if you didn't see it, I would turn off the video because, you know, I'm gonna be spoiling stuff here. Anyway, when the doctor character does his turn and he attacks the cop, I don't think that was needed. Like, you didn't need that character in the film at that point. Like, you didn't need somebody to do that, and he's not in it for much longer after that. So it was like, what was the point of that? And then he has a broken arm or whatever. He has a beat up arm, and he takes Michael and he puts Michael in a cop car. And Michael's like 6 foot whatever, 200 and change, and he with ease he picks him up and puts him in this police car. So I didn't like the way that was all set up, and then you have that like little continuity error, I guess I'll say. That was my only big gripe. And then there's 2 characters that they never touch back on, and one of them is the reporter. You don't know if he dies. Like, he hits the wall and he passes out, so you don't know if he dies. I don't know if they're saving that. You know, I don't know if there's going to be another sequel, but if they're saving that. And then the other character, they go with one character in the film that out of everybody should have died, and they don't ever touch back on if he's dead or not, is the character of the boyfriend, who gets caught like basically cheating on his girlfriend, and then throws the phone in the pudding mix or whatever it is, and then you don't see him ever again after that. And they kill all these other characters after that, but you never even are brought up with what happens with him. And like, of all the characters that should have been killed in this movie, that's one of them, because he was just such a piece of shit. So